We're ready.
Oh, I was looking for the white screen. All right, good morning, everyone. I hope you are having a fantastic middle of the week. I was going to say start of the week, but it's the middle of the week. So you've probably seen lots of dragons and rings. Hint, hint of what we're going to talk about today. Well, at least what I'm going to talk about anyway. So, yeah, we are back today. Antoine is back from his various adventures, gallivanting around the world as France's equivalent of 007, whatever that is. But yeah, so we're back talking about games, right? Lots of games. Today we're talking about the news and covering some sort of odds and ends and stories that we're all interested in. We prepared a few stories, roughly 3 to 4 to 2 each, but we'll see what we can get through in today's allotted time. Um, and that is it. So, Adam,
Yes.
what you been playing besides? Well, I shouldn't say besides. Don't hack to you, from what I know.
Yeah, I've been playing .hack GU. I've been playing Dusk Diver 2.
Oh yes,
So
that was fun.
yeah, so I streamed that yesterday, and I will be streaming that again on Friday. And yeah, that's
Tell us
basically
about
it.
Dust
Just those
Divers.
two.
What's the difference between number 2 and number 1?
So I'm not too far into it. I only completed really the first mission so far, but when I played the original one, I played it because it's a Taiwanese game, so that of course caught my attention. So I was like, I gotta play this game, and it was pretty good. It wasn't like I wouldn't say it's AAA level, but it was a solid game. And from the reviews, this one is people seem to be enjoying it quite a bit more. And playing it, I can see that definitely the quality's a lot better. They have more cutscenes. They have a lot more kind of conversational things going on. They seem to animate a little bit more. The graphics are a lot better. You can tell the difference. So they've upped that. The gameplay has changed a bit. In the original game, you basically can only control one character, and you can kind of summon the other characters for special attacks. In this one, you can still summon the character for their basic attacks, but you can actually switch between characters. So now you have different play styles that have been added. They've added kind of more of an ability system to the character themselves, where you have your basic attacks, but then you also have these kind of bigger attacks, and then you can switch characters, you can summon characters. They have kind of an interesting dynamic with the way stamina is used, where whenever you use an attack, like a special attack, it'll use stamina, and it'll actually highlight the ability, and the ability will either be highlighted blue, pink, or yellow. If it's blue, it means that if you use this ability, you'll still have stamina left. If it's pink, it means you can use this ability, but it'll drain all your stamina, and you'll go into kind of a stamina recharge mode. And so it kind of gives you a warning of what's going to cause you to run out of stamina. So you kind of have this idea of like, oh, this guy's nearly dead. I can safely use this attack, or I should wait a little bit. And then the yellow puts you into kind of a burst mode, which makes you super powerful. So far I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's going to be really. Thankfully, I'm limiting myself to playing that on stream, which is good, because if not, I'd have a really hard time deciding whether to play that or .hack GU, because .hack GU is a PlayStation 2 game, and the gameplay definitely is reminiscent of the era, whereas this is a modern game, so definitely the gameplay is a lot more robust. So, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. So.
Nice. Antoine, what about you?
Wait, sorry, just a question for Dust Diver, because I have no clue what kind of game is that. I imagine it's not a tactical like Other Side at all. What kind
No,
of
no, no.
gameplay is that?
Dust Diver is what do you call them? Like a brawler, like the old Streets of Rage kind of thing. It's
Oh,
3D.
okay, fair enough.
It's 3D, but you're put in the level, and there's a bunch of enemies, and you just beat them up and work your way through to the end of the level. Yeah.
Yeah, Street of Rage, Mother Russia, this kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's a 3D one, but yeah, it's the same kind of genre. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. As for me, so just before I left and I finished since then, I played Kenna Bridge of Spirits, which was in my library forever. And I'm really glad I played it because it was really charming. And I think I'm really attracted to this theme. But again, after Beyond Two Soul and Spiritfarer, this is another game where you help souls pass on, pass on. So I guess this is a recurring theme for me. But what to say is the art is really nice. It's really cute. The little rot thingy are very cute mascots. The fighting is actually strangely very well made. Originally, and I think since I have the Xbox Pass, I keep bumping into games where I have to redo my keys. I hate that. They should. I know it's not a big ask, but developers, when you start a game, you always have this screen where they say adjust the luminosity, of before you play the game. Put another screen saying this game has been designed for keyboard or pad. It will tell me at first because I can't read your mind. Because after Bannerlord or The Witcher or Hollow Knight I played recently as well. I tried. I start playing and all of a sudden, like within the first 30 seconds, I'm like, no, something's wrong. I have to remap my keys or I have to take my controller. For Kenna, it was like this. Like at first, I was on my keyboard, like something is not going well, really. So I took my pad, and then on the pad, there's one button for dodging and jumping, which doesn't work. So I had to go back and remap my keyboard. Is that really that hard, to make it intuitive? I don't know if it's just me or it's just maybe it's intuitive to other people, but I keep remapping, and especially on the Xbox Game Pass games. So I don't know. Maybe it's because they're taking games from console and just doing a straight off portage to PC, and they don't try remapping or anything. They don't care. They just put, let's just put it on the platform and let the player remap everything. That's annoying. That's really annoying. At least tell me if I'm supposed to play with a keyboard. Just a second. I have my cat destroying my stairs. Um, so yeah, apart from the fact that I had to struggle for 10 minutes to remapping my keys, Kenna was a really really good game, half platformer, half fighting, with a really really good story. I really advise these, kids 12 years and plus, for them to really understand the story well. And no, it's a really 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 good game that I recommend, and quite short as well, unless you are completionist and you want to find all the little rods and all the mask and all the stuff. There's this little side quests which are made here just to extend the life of the game, which it's nice, but I don't think you need that. It's a short game and it really lives very well to be a short game. So if you haven't played it and you don't have much time to play, this is gold. And recently, so like since last week, I tried my hand at Evil Genius 2, which is a base building RTS, you could say. And not really RTS, I'm not sure, unsure. Anyway, you are literally Dr. Evil from Austin Powers, and you're trying to conquer the world. There's several villains, but I started with the first one, really looked like it. And you are on your evil island lair, and you're trying to conquer the world, gather your minions that you don't pay because why pay your minions? You have to kidnap people to make specialists because you can't teach your minions to go to the gym and build up. Now you have to kidnap a guard so that he can tell you your his secret to build up muscles or stuff like this. Anyway, the system of this game is really good. There's a couple of flaws, but it's still an excellent game that I recommend. It's really fun, and it's gonna absolutely eat away your time. Absolutely. Maybe it's a bit slow in mid game because you can't continue the main. If you continue the main story, then the side story just vanish. And the side story are quite fun, but you can do it only one at a time, which is kind of slowing the game down. I really like to be able to do several stories at once. Even if you run into the danger that's running several side story at once, means you have lots of different enemies coming to your lair, and that would make it dangerous. But I would like to have the choice to do that, because otherwise, if you do it one story at a time, then you have big moment of blanks where you have to wait for a research to complete, or an expedition to finish, or something like this, which leave you some time for you to rebuild your base, or do things better, which is nice. But it's slow mid game down, so that's maybe one flaw that I find to the game. Apart from that, little things like I'd like to have more control over my base. For instance, if I have some secret agents coming to visit my lair, they have a little camera and trying to take pictures to raise suspicion. I'd like to be able to manually block my door so they can't get out and trap them inside. Because after all, I'm an evil genius. I have cameras all over. I know they are in there. I can see it. These guys are not. So why can't I just lock down my place? I'd love to be able to lock down my place. I can't do that. Maybe that would make the game easier. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's why they do that. But still, I'd like to have this option as well. And that's it for my rambling, which has been going on far too long.
Yes. Yeah, I played Evil Genius 2. I streamed it. It was one of the first games I streamed when we started streaming. And it was cool, but I've just had this big thing. I've not been like enraptured by RTS games since I stopped playing them however many years ago. But yeah, for me, I finished It Takes Two this past Monday. It's much longer than A Way Out. I mean, made by the same guy and the same company. A Way Out, I heard, is like 6 hours. This is more like 10 to 12 hours, and it felt like it was overextended by like 6 hours. Like it was like a really fun game, lots of really cool mechanics, but at some point I'm like, oh my god, can we just finish this story already? Um, as Adam and Antoine are laughing if you're listening on the podcast because they know how much I am not in the mood for story these days. That being said, Lord of the Rings, I'm going to plug it many times, is an awesome, awesome TV show. I understand why Amazon spent $250 million per episode because it's like a movie for every hour of the show. But we'll talk about that later. So It Takes Two is done. I'm going back to Sniper Elite 5 with my friend Hans that Adam knows. Which is cool because I think Adam and I only ended up playing like 3 missions, right? Because Adam finished most of it by
Something
himself.
like that,
yeah. So I'm cool. I think then I'll be able to do that from the beginning. And then in the last 1 minute, Far Cry 6, I'm getting towards the end, enjoying every bit of it. Still the same complaints that I told Adam before, which is that the weapon variety is just not there. I loved the old Far Cry 5 had much greater weapon variety. My older brother is playing Far Cry 6 as well, which is kind of surprising. But yeah, Far Cry 6 still loving the story, still loving the music and the culture and all the Spanish words that I used to hear when I was living in America that I get to hear again now, I guess, when I'm playing Far Cry 6. Pretty good, pretty good. And then I ended up buying Deathloop on the Epic Store sale, which just finished yesterday. So that will probably be the next FPS game I play if I am still in the mood for that. But yeah, so I like to keep this segment 15 minutes long because I want to get into the point of people being able to say, okay, I don't want to listen to what Adam, Corinne, and Antoine are playing. We can just go straight into the news. I found that on my other podcast, I have like a segment where people can skip 3 minutes. And in Google, you can see when people skip 3 minutes. And I've noticed like, oh, wow, people actually do skip when I say skip. So I want to give people the chance here, especially we've been promoted on Leo Allen's show. And I want to thank Leo for that as well. But anyway, let's get into the news. We're going to go one story by one story by one story. Try to keep it as brief as possible, gentlemen. All right. And Adam first, and then Antoine, and then myself.
All right. Well, then I will start with this. So apparently, when when Halo Infinite came out, the 343 said, "Yeah, we were going to give you split screen co-op. That's totally going to be a thing. It's not out now, so don't worry, it's going to happen." And then recently, 343 came out and said, "Yeah, we scrapped that idea. Split screen co-op is not going to happen. It just can't be done." So some clever people figured out that there is actually a way that you can semi-glitch your way into co-op. So what you need to do is, it's kind of convoluted because you need to, let me see, I have the exact instructions here. You need to go into the campaign menu, load your save, click play, and then why is everything loading up? Click play, and then as soon as you click play, as soon as the loading map starts to appear, you need to go into your friends list and join somebody else who is sitting in the menus, and then you can leave their fire team. And then in the custom lobby under server, you select offline, and then you can connect your controller and other profiles on your current Xbox. Click play, and then you can get your split screen, and it works. And not only that, but you can go up to 4-player split screen. So they can get it to work. And I think I saw that somebody even figured out how to get it to work on last gen. But yeah, so 343 said, we're totally going to have this feature. Later on, they say, we're not going to have this feature. People find out that they can actually kind of force this feature on the Xbox. So yeah, it's caused a little bit of a kerfuffle in the Xbox community, where people are saying, what is Microsoft doing with it? Because it also came on the heels of there was a reporter who was talking to some of the dev groups, and the dev groups were saying that the way development works at Microsoft is they do quite a bit of contracting for their games, where they contract people to handle things in their games, but they have a policy that you cannot hire a contractor for more than 18 months. So after 18 months, you need to swap out your contractor for somebody else. And for a game like Halo Infinite, which was in development for 6 years, that means that they were constantly swapping out contractors. And this is part of the reason why they think that some of the Microsoft games like Halo Infinite is having the issues that it's having, is because you don't have one team or even multiple teams that work together on the one project for an extended period of time. It's actually one team that's kind of overseeing the project, and then they're pulling people in over time and then knocking people out over time. And so because of that, it's causing a little bit of worry in future Microsoft IPs and how they're going to work. Because they did say that we're going to have this feature, and then they come out and say we're not going to have this feature because it's just not doable. But then people find out, no, it's entirely doable. Why didn't you do it? So if you want to play Halo Infinite co-op, couch co-op with split screen, it is entirely possible. There are some hoops you need to jump through, but from the way it looks, people are saying that there are no issues with it. It doesn't glitch or have any problems like that. So it's doable. You can do your classic couch co-op if you wish.
So, I mean, what's your takeaway from this? Why did you choose this story, Adam?
Because I just thought it was interesting that, you have something that a developer says is not possible, and then people prove that it is entirely possible. I mean, it's kind of like to an extent, like the hot coffee thing way back in the day, where the developers are like, this is totally not a thing, and the people are like, no, 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 it's totally a thing. It's in the game. It's in the source code. You left it in. And it's different, but it's in the same vein of like where developers are saying that, this is, I mean, they said they promised it, and then they said it was impossible, that they can't do it, and then it proves that they can do it. And so the question is, why did they give up on that? Why are they not still pursuing a way to make it work? Why did they just completely up and say no? And then especially because after, I guess it was Halo 5, they said couch co-op is always going to be a thing. That's part of Halo's identity. It's good. It's going to be something in every Halo. That's what we're always going to have. And then immediately in the next entry, they're like, nope, it can't be done. So we're just completely
but Halo
abandoning
is
it.
such a small IP,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I just thought it was interesting that that they did that. That was kind of odd, I thought. But I thought it was just interesting, the fact that people found a way to do it, because I would have never been able to. I mean, yeah, to figure out a way to do split screen on a game that's supposed to not have split screen is just crazy to me. Like, how did you figure that out? And B, yeah, how is it doing it? Was it playing the game twice online? I'm not sure. But you
Interesting.
don't need to hack the system. It's something you can do in the system. It's weird. So I just thought that was kind of interesting that people found a way. You know, life finds a way.
Antoine, what's your story?
All right. Well, for middle-aged gamers like us, I bet some of our first games would have been point and click back in the 90s because LucasArts was doing some great ones, and I'm sure we all played at least once, and it was very fun. And the best among them, at least for me, was Monkey Island, which I think for me, I there was Monkey Island 3. I didn't play. I think there was some episodic games. Sorry, lately like 4 and 5. Not sure about that. But the story is Monkey Island 6, I would say. For me, would be 4 because I haven't played the episode. But Monkey Island is coming back on September 19th, which is in what, 2 weeks? And that's really cool. So I'm gonna get that and back with. You can see us, good old Stan, from Stan Insurance on the cover. Hopefully, you play Gibber Stripwood again, and with his lovely Elaine, and they will have some trouble with LeChuck as usual. And I just can't wait to play this again. Monkey Island, just to tell you, I'd really compared to other point and click was really the blockbuster of point and click. There was a lot of money made into the animation, the story, the people, the actors, making the voice, where all of them were very famous actors. So they spent a lot of money on Monkey Island 3, which really was the summum of what you could do as a point and click. And I can't wait to see what they did with this one. And I really hope it's going to be as fun as the others. And yeah, I'm definitely doing this after Evil Genius.
I mean, did you have a look at the new art style? Like, you must have seen the people complain about it. What do you think about that?
The art style?
Yeah.
It's shocking. No, they have to make a choice because Monkey Island 3 was 1990 whatever, so it was big pixels. The art was nice and hand drawn and beautiful, and that's what makes the identity of Monkey Island. It's because it was really beautiful compared to other point and click. It was really beautiful, like all the background, at least on the street, were handmade, and that's true that the art what I see is a very big change of direction, maybe made by the fact that they don't have as much money as they used to have on the third one, and it is worrying. I don't know. Maybe it's just a choice they made because they didn't have time or the money or whatever. I don't know. I'll play and I'll tell you because the third was beautiful, but 1 and 2 that was just big pixels, and it was still fantastic games. So I know we're in 2022 now, so it's very different from the 90s. There's lots of different of you have lots of choice in art style now. You could make it very beautiful. Why they didn't choose that, I'm not sure. Maybe they want to keep the 90s vibe, which I think that's why they did that. They just want to keep the old vibe. But that's true that from what I saw, it's ugliest now in 2022 than it was in the 90s, which is worrying. But, I'll play and I'll tell you. Not a big fan of this art, though.
Okay. Moving on to my story. My story is, of course, as I hinted at 2 or 3 times already, is about Lord of the Rings games. So this is an article published on AV Club. I think it was about Monday when I found the article. But it's basically 5 great Lord of the Rings games. And of course, this is because the TV show was released last week, Friday, 2-episode premiere. It's with that fantastic Swedish lady who plays Galadriel, who's also very beautiful. Gentlemen, gotta take a look at that. But yeah, no, so fantastic. I mean, it is a very cinematic movie, but when stuff comes out, and this is a big diss on Game of Thrones, because I think Game of Thrones went the wrong way with all the blood and guts and gore and negativity and stuff. So Game of Thrones, you suck. And so do all the Game of Thrones games, including the board game is okay, but there's a whole bunch of bad stuff. But at least Lord of the Rings has some really really good games. So I'm gonna put pretty much all of the stories you talk about today in the show notes for the podcast. So please have a look there. But basically, there's some of the games especially if you're Antoine, Adam, and my age, you would have played Middle Earth 2, the sort of RTS game. One of the things I always remember is the Horsemen of Rohan, and as you in the RTS game, it was like the coolest sound effect. It just looked like the movies. The horses run through the orcs, and the orcs fly up in the air. The tiny, sort of small versions back in the day, and most recently, Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War, of course. I loved Shadow of Mordor. Shadow of War is not
Very
on
good.
this list. I thought Shadow of War was also pretty good. Of course, Shadow of War had the whole thing with microtransactions and stuff, so I understand why. There's a PlayStation game, Lord of the Rings: Return of the King from 2003, which I don't think that ever came to PC. Um, but apparently that was really good because you could play with multiple characters. There's another game I played with Hans a few years ago, and you could play as Legolas or the dwarf guy. I forgot his name.
Gimli.
Yes. So I don't remember any of this stuff. So I apologize. I'm not a. I never read the books either because my dislike of extended stories started when I was in junior high school. Um, and Lord of the Rings was just Jesus Christ, 1,000 pages at that time. And it was about. I remember reading a passage where J.R.R. Tolkien was describing the grass on the knolls of Hobbitshire, and I'm like, oh my god, 23 words to describe how a place looks. That is unnecessary. Just say it's green, good enough. But yeah, so some great games. If you're feeling the TV show like I'm feeling, if you're watching it in 4K HDR, which you should be because it is definitely worth it. Um, there's a bunch of games you can probably already have in your collection, and the Lord of the Rings games are also replayable. The strategy games, not so much, I would say. The PlayStation game I've never played, so maybe Adam could speak to that. But yeah, if you're looking for games to play, have a look at that list. Maybe replay something if you're in the mood. Like, um, you know, the Shadow of War games, you meet Lord Celebrimbor, who's the guy that gives you life after you get killed. And I'm like, oh my god, the Lord Celebrimbor in the TV show is much better looking than the ghost version of himself. I guess so. That's an obvious though, um, but yeah. So that is my story for today. We can move on to Adam's second story.
All right, more
And
Xbox news.
just before that,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
also just to
Sorry.
remind that if you like Lord of the Ring, of course, check out Phil's video on the mobile game of Lord of the Ring that he did. That's it.
Oh yes, yes, of course, yes. Yeah, I forgot about all those videos.
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah, so more Xbox news. So Xbox is releasing their family game plan, which is kind of like the Netflix family plan where you can have multiple accounts tied to one. So basically the way it works is you have your main account and then you can attach 4 other accounts to it. So you can have up to 5 people on the same plan for Game Pass. There are some limitations. Currently, I believe it is only released in Ireland and where's the other country?
Colombia, I think, something
Colombia,
like weird.
yes. Yeah, Ireland and Colombia. So those are the only 2 countries that have it currently. They're being tested there. It's a little bit more expensive than Game Pass Ultimate. Game Pass Ultimate, I believe, is around $15.99 or something like that US. This one will be probably closer to $21, $22 US when transferred over. So it's a little bit more expensive, but you get 5 accounts out of it. So, it works out to about $5 per person if you're doing it that way. There are some limitations. You can have 4 accounts attached to your account, and you can actually swap those accounts. So, for example, if you had one friend and they're not using Xbox anymore, and you wanted to give it to another friend, you could actually detach that first friend's account from your Xbox family plan, and then attach somebody else's account to it. So you can have up to 5 accounts at any given time, the main account plus 4 additional ones, but you can only have up to 8 accounts attached over the course of a year. So you can't just constantly do it every other week. You'd have to you are limited in how often you can do it. But still, I mean, you can attach 8 different accounts over the course of the year. And yeah, that's basically it. Is once you get Game Pass, then you can hook up your friends and everybody can have Game Pass together. So that's basically it.
Antoine, any questions?
No, no, I was just thinking that, when my kids grow up, it's gonna be great because they will have, I'm sure they will have a computer and five accounts. It's too much, of course, but maybe two or three would be a way to save money because I don't have to buy $70 game or $80 game each time. I'd rather have a $20 a month. That's great.
Yeah, apparently on PC you can already do this. There's a way of where you can have like a parent account for Microsoft and then have children's accounts for Microsoft, and you can share Game Pass across those accounts. So on PC, it's already doable, but this will make it available through Game Pass specifically itself, explicitly Game Pass itself, and of course it applies to consoles as well. So
Of course, but it's already hard enough to make them to do their homework. So easy there, Microsoft, please. When they're older, please.
So Adam, you saying that I could subscribe to Game Pass now and then share it with my brothers in two different countries, like I do Netflix?
that's a different thing. Is you cannot. It does not. It's locked by region, so you cannot share with people outside your own region.
So, oh, god damn it. So that means it's the same like Disney Plus here, where I have Disney Plus automatically supports 5 people, but it's just myself and I'm sharing it with 2 other friends. So I couldn't share it with anybody else. So you,
Yeah.
you couldn't do it like Netflix. As long as Netflix is in that country, they would get localized content, right?
Uh, yeah, I don't know, because yeah, Netflix. That's why people use VPNs so they can access like the Australian Netflix and stuff like that. No, but this one, the account is locked by region, so you can't share with people from other regions. Now, I don't know where the
But
region limits are. For example, Americans could probably share with Canadians. I would assume. I would assume people all over Europe could share with all people all over Europe. I don't know if Australia is locked to only Australia or if it includes maybe Southeast Asia. I'm not sure where they draw the lines on regions, but it does say that the current plan would lock you into your region, so you can't share across region. Now, if you had a VPN, that might be possible. I'm not sure, but without one, yeah, not supposed to do that.
I think region locking in this sense means that you just, as long as it's, if I think it would be like the Netflix way, because it's just games, it's all IPs that Microsoft has paid for, right? So yeah, I think I would be able to share it, because as long as, because I mean, when I did Xbox Game Pass here in Taiwan, the games available in Taiwan are still the same as games available in the States.
Maybe, but I mean, for example, now I don't know about Xbox, but like for example, for PlayStation, most of the games available here are the same games that are available in the US, but they are the Asian version, so it has like English, Chinese. You know, the language options are different than the language options you would get, say, in the States. So, yeah.
Oh no, no, I think it's good, because that was my plan always, was to, like, once Game Pass Family is available, subscribe, share it with my brothers and whoever else wants it, and then that will be it.
Yeah, it says it's region locked, but I don't know what exactly that all entails because it doesn't really go into detail. It just says they are locked by region.
I think it would make sense. Come out in Christmas time, that would be like the perfect Christmas gift. Say, hey, get a free access to games.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to that.
It also says that if you are signed up for if you're currently signed up for Game Pass, it'll transfer. Each remaining month would be transferred into 18 days of Game Pass friends and family. And if you're signed up for the piecemeal tiers, your subscription would convert into 12 days of Game Pass for trim. So for each month that you currently have, you can transfer it over, but it wouldn't be the full month. It would be a portion of that month.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, Antoine, what's your second story?
More news and story. As I was saying to you guys before we started, I've talked to Phil. He says hi, and as you know, he's a teacher, so summer has been extremely tough for him. Cram school and everything. So he has a little more time, and will likely come back with some Final Fantasy videos in the next month or two. And he was telling me that end of November there is a Warhammer 40k Dark Tide by the guys who made Vermintide coming out. So not a promise, but we'll likely do some co-op, the two of us on this game. So if you're looking forward to that, then end of November we'll start doing this. Very, very quick story. You guys ramble too much. I have to keep it short.
Cool. So I mean, that's something for everyone to keep an eye out on. My story is not so much about this specific list. It's basically about PC Gamer does the list. It's like 5 new games on Steam that you might have missed, right? And I think we've talked about this. Antoine and Adam have mentioned this as well. Is that in the Switch, in the PlayStation Store, I'm sure Adam's talked about this. Is that I think we've come to sort of like this, not an apex, but a point in gaming where there's so much gaming coming out, indie games, garbageware, whatever, that sometimes you miss some really cool games, and it's only like years later. Like Antoine was like, "Oh, I played this, and it's actually pretty cool." And then we're like, "Oh, this was a small game which came out this month, but in this month, these big games, AAA games came out, or other games came out, and we missed some really cool titles." So there's lots of content, lots of videos like this, and if you guys are interested, right, I'd certainly be open to make it. Adam is pretty busy at the moment. I might have a little bit more time coming in a few months, but I'd like to sort of highlight this. Antoine did a video like this, I remember, right?
Hidden Gems.
Hidden Gems, something like that.
Yeah, but that was one of our very old podcasts. We did that at some point.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, but I'll go over these quickly. Like for me, there's a game. Adams thankfully put all of this on a picture, so those are cool. But for me, the highlight of this game is Orcs. Orcs is like a Carcassonne. They are billions, sort of board gamey stuff. Until the end also looks kind of cool. So I mean, it's check these out. Tell us what you think. I know these things interesting, and I mean, one of the cool things with these sort of games as well is the price. Like, if you're someone, and especially in these economic times, with inflation costs, with high energy costs in Europe, if you're living in Europe, right, you're paying through the nose for energy. If you're living here in Taiwan, electricity prices have gone up, right, and if wherever you are, you're right, you still want to play games, you still want to make the most out of the money that you're earning, and sometimes it took me a long time. Like, let me tell you, I was only playing AAA games until like 10 years ago when that changed, right? So some of these games, these double A, these single A, these indie games they're worth the money, right? They're a game you spend $10, $15, even $5, right? Like a good example is the Vampire game, Vampire Survivors, right? $2 on Steam, and people have put 40, 50, 60, got all the way up to like 2,000 hours into just playing this pixely game. We just kill people, right? Score attacks and stuff. I mean, that's a good example. So the point of today's story is check out some content. Could be from us, could be from other podcasters, streamers, YouTubers. If you want us to do it right, you can always tweet at us, twitter.com/gamingage. It wouldn't have to be a video. We could say, hey, Korean research this. These are some good games that you might have missed. So we would love to share those with you. We'd love to support indie creators. Check out the Kickstarter stuff we've been doing as well, right? Those are also stuff that is they're not $50, $60, $70 games, but they're definitely worth it for you to support, to encourage people to get into the gaming industry. Anyway, and that is it for me. Let's go on to Adam's third story where I'll have a little bit of time.
All right. My third story is that Sony and Tencent are bought combined 30% of From Software. Sony ended up spending. Sony ended up spending, or they ended up buying up 14.9%, and Tencent has bought 16.25%. So they've got a now combined 30% of From Software. Now I think it's Katakawa is the company that currently has Katakawa has the controlling stake in From Software, and I don't think they're going to be giving it up anytime soon. But yeah, this just kind of shows that it's not quite an acquisition from Sony, but it's something that clearly they've shown interest in. And it follows with Tencent, where they are acquiring quite a bit. I mean, they've already bought or they've already acquired Riot Games. They also got they've increased their they increased their stake in Ubisoft, so now they're up to 29% of Ubisoft. So they were at 9.9%, 9.99. Now they're at 29.9%. So yeah, it's just acquisition news, or in this case, it is stock news in a way, acquiring shares. So, and it does have an impact, even though, for example, Sony is not acquiring FromSoft. We do know that they had Bloodborne, which was exclusive to PlayStation. So while they can't controls FromSoft, it does make it easier for them to do similar things in the future because they do have a little bit more say in what FromSoft does. And in Tencent's case, it actually has impacted games quite a bit. For example, their shares in Ubisoft had a bit of a hullabaloo where what happened is in some Ubisoft games they had depictions of skeletons and skulls and that sort of thing, and in Chinese culture that's considered really bad. You're not supposed to have those things. They're considered like bad fortune and whatnot. So Ubisoft actually took those out of the game. So they were swapping out assets at the request of Tencent. Later on, gamers came out and complained, and they're like, hey, why are we catering to this one? They don't even own, at the time they don't even own, or they only own up to 10% of your stock, but you're basically like shifting your entire design to fit their culture rather than the culture of the other 90% of your stock. What's going on here? But it will have some impact on what kind of things they are able to release, or it could provide some roadblocks for if they're trying to release certain things that don't mix well with certain ideologies and whatnot. But yeah, just something to keep your eye on.
What do you think, Antoine?
Well, I'm thinking maybe an exclusive Elden Ring 2 on PlayStation. That'd be nice.
Well,
It's
Elden
not
Ring
gonna
1 is on
happen, but
PlayStation, so I mean, I wouldn't be
yes,
surprised.
but I mean, is it exclusive?
I would doubt it. I mean, like I said, like PlayStation only owns what 14% or so. So,
Yeah,
they
of
can't
course.
they can't vote to make something exclusive.
Oh, okay.
However,
So
it
maybe
makes it easier if they do say something like Bloodborne, or in the future they come to FromSoft and they say, "Hey, we want to make a game with you, and we want to make that game exclusive." It makes it easier because they have an in, so they have a way to discuss these things with From Software. But by no means does it give them control over stuff From Software to make these decisions. Something
of
like
course.
Bloodborne, since the IP is already PlayStation exclusive, would make sense. Elden Ring, I don't think that would make sense to make Elden Ring 2 exclusive. And yeah,
How
we know
about
my feelings
Armored Core?
on taking IPs away from people. So
I know, but how about a joint venture on a new exclusive Armored Core?
if I get any Armor Core, I'm happy. But seeing as Armor Core has not been exclusive in the past, I would prefer it stays that way. Once something goes multiplat, I think it should stay multiplat in perpetuity.
Well, they should get something out of their investment somewhere as well,
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously,
like share.
yeah, they have shares. So I mean, if Elden Ring does well, they make money. Whether it's sold on PlayStation, PC, Xbox, or Nintendo. They're if From Software profits, they profit. So
And this makes me interested because the news yesterday was that TikTok got slapped down for getting into gaming. Um, so, like with Tencent acquiring more of these foreign companies, I don't know. It's just like who was trying to buy a UK supplier of some sort of technology, some Chinese company, and the UK government was like, "Hell no, you ain't doing that." So I can imagine, because Ubisoft is a pillar of France in the sense of that it is the most famous French game company, right, Antoine,
I would say so.
in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
and,
it's
and Canadian and Montreal.
yes. So I can imagine the French government be like, "Nope, we're sorry, you guys can't buy this. This is a French pillar of society," or whatever. There's a specific English word for the rule that I forget, but Um, not to mention Xi Jinping saying, "Oh my God, Tencent, you're getting too big. Time to cut you down to size," just like they cut down Alibaba and who else? Oppo and Huawei. and a bunch of other companies saying, "Oh, you guys are getting too big. Don't forget who's the boss." So it's interesting that they're still making moves like this. Or it might be that eventually the CEO of Tencent just leaves China and moves to Canada or some other place, and he's no longer Chinese, and then he can do whatever the hell he wants. Uh, maybe.
Okay. Apparently I got some of my information wrong. So Tencent had 9.99% stock. They've been able to double that. So they're up to about 18, give or take. While is it Guillemot? Guilleomt? How would you pronounce that, Antoine? Guillemot? I don't know.
The brothers who own
Guillemot.
Ubisoft, the French name,
Yeah. So that company,
Guillermo I
yeah.
can't
So they have been allowed to increase their stake in Ubisoft of up to 29.9%. So they have 30%. Tencent has nearly 20%, but Tencent owns 49.9% stake in Guillemot Brothers. So Tencent doesn't directly control nearly 50% of they don't directly control 50% of Ubisoft, but they control them combined with another company which they basically control 50% of, do control 50% of Ubisoft. So they have a fair amount of influence while not having direct influence.
Well, they have controlling interest, right?
They have controlling interest in the Guillemot brothers, not in Ubisoft, but between the Guillemot brothers, which they do have controlling interest over, and themselves, then they get very close to controlling interest in Ubisoft. Very close. They're like 48% or so.
But I mean, right? If they have the largest share, then that means they have controlling interest, right?
Yeah. But I mean, they don't directly. It's that they combined with another company, but they control that other company. So it's like like a backdoor kind of thing.
Cool. Let me check. Is next week our interview day?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. That means I need to send Luke the script. So next week will not be a typical show. Next week we will be meeting with Luke, whose last name I forgot. I apologize, Luke. But yeah, he runs a cool gaming matching site that I've always been interested in, especially for finding people to play games at specific times. It's gonna be an interesting discussion. I mean, so much news going on in gaming. You guys wanna any final thoughts before next week?
No.
All good.
All good, cool. And then we are finishing on time, which is nice. So please come have a chat with our second guest. And if you know anybody else who'd like to come on the show, we'd love to have them. You can always hit us up at middleagegaming2020@gmail.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Adam's wonderful YouTube videos. Check us out on Facebook if you like us there. Check us out on TikTok as well, right? Reshare those videos onto social media. We'd love that as well. And then we will see you guys same time next week, Wednesday, for another show.
See you guys later.
Bye bye.
Later.